Learn how you can save time and tuition dollars with Wilmington University's new dual credit advantage. Go to wilmu.edu/dual credit. What's up, Sixers fans? This is the Sixers Talk podcast presented to you by Wilmington University. WilMU Works. I'm your boy, Ben Berry. Follow me on Twitter, Instagram. I am Ben Berry. I'm with first-time guest, friend of the pod, Philly's own Cliff Augustin from SiriusXM. Cliff, how you doing today?
Big Ben, what's up, bro? I can't wait to get on this with you, bro. It's the first time we chop it up sports-wise.
Chopping it up. No longer texting, we talking. We talking now. And yo, do you hear that? Do you hear that?
Exactly.
It's the fans at the Wells Fargo. Maxey. Tyrese Maxey has a monster game in his not postseason debut, but as a starter because he played last year. He dropped 21 points in the third quarter on his way to he hit 40. I turned it off at the end because it was a blowout, but a big game for Maxey. What did you see from the second-year player from Kentucky?
Bro, listen, I was talking to my friends about this as I was watching the game. I'm actually here in South Philly. As I was watching the game, I said after his first year, he became a better shooter, a better slasher, a better just flat-out scorer, somewhat of a better defender, and a better facilitator, all in one offseason, right? Like, isn't that crazy, his progression throughout all of this, right? And being the odd man out, obviously Embiid and Harden are going to get the most attention. He thrives in that role of being like, oh, okay, all right, I'm a little bit outside. Like, I'm the X factor now, right? So I'm going to just go and get a bucket whenever I get my opportunity. And I feel like every time he gets the ball, something good happens on the offensive end, right?
Right.
Like, so it's crazy.
He's a phenomenal player. Like, a year ago, even though I thought he was a good player and I got to see him play, but I wanted the Sixers to get another point guard, a backup, he who shall not be named in Brooklyn, because I thought it was unfair to put all of that on Tyrese Maxey. For him to run the second unit, create his own shot, I thought that was too much to put on a rookie with a team that had championship aspirations. Well, he's showing that he can do it, even though it's his second year. He's exceeding all that. Yes, as you said, his playmaking, his shooting, all of that has taken incredible leaps in year two. Incredible leaps. And in game one against the Raptors, there was nowhere he couldn't get on the court, and there was no shot that wasn't falling for him. He did everything he needed to do. The Raptors, they were the smaller team. They're long and athletic, but the smaller teams, so they just defended Embiid inside the arc well, just swarming him. So the swing passes, as they was going around, they found Maxey. He was either getting his shot or he's kicking it off around the arc to someone else to get their shot. It is really amazing to watch him play and just looks like a guy on the playground.
Exactly. He looks like a guy on the playground. He looks like he has no fear. He looks like he's a guy who's just like, listen, I'm out here just competing. I don't care what the result is. I don't care what happens is. Like, I don't care about what people think about me, right? Like, wasn't that the biggest problem here, Ben, is like we had a guy who was just so wrapped up in what others thought about him because, he didn't want to shoot. He didn't want to do certain, extra things. Now Tyrese is just here. Is just, he's just playing his game. He just doesn't care. He's just all about it. Oh, it's okay.
He is living for the big moment. He's living for the big moment. Like, it's not a moment that's too big for him, which is phenomenal. He steps up to it. It reminds me of Kobe in his first season or his first time in the playoffs. And if anyone knows, you go back, the Lakers were down. He came down court, shot a three. Airball, came back down court, shot another three. Wasn't scared of the moment. And that's what I like to see.
Right. And I think he got humbled a little bit by that the game 7 last year. Remember he played some last year when they were dependent on him a lot because of Ben Simmons' shortcomings. And then he didn't really perform like all that well in that game 7 scenario. But I think he learned from that, and I think now he's ready to roll and embrace that role of being like the third, fourth option? Because I mean, Ben, do you think he's the third option at this point?
He might be the third option, but at times he's the second, and other times he's even the first. He might not start the game as the first option, but sometimes he's ended as the first option.
And exactly, think about it. He had what 38 tonight. He ended up 38 tonight. That's the most. The Sixers had 3 turnovers overall. He had 38 tonight. That's the first ever to drop 35 points in his playoff start as a Sixer, which is it's insane. And to think, just last year, he's 20 years old. He's now 21 years old, and he's just like, listen, when you play with no fear and you don't care about what people think about you, you don't care about what the critics say. Your expectations aren't that high because you aren't like a lottery pick. You know what I mean? Like, there's so many factors that go into just why he's just so fearless, and the confidence that's instilled in him from Doc Rivers, from the team, from everybody. And I know just from talking to guys on the team, they just instill that confidence in them where they're like, listen, we believe in you, we trust in you. You get the ball, you do something with it. It doesn't matter. We need somebody to take that pressure off of Embiid and off of Harden. And then when you knock down shots at the clip he did, 14 for 21, Ben 66% from the field, 5 from 8 from 3. When you're knocking down all your shots, it's just that easy, right?
It's that easy, and as you said, playing with no fear. So it's playing with no fear. It's something to that, and a lot of whether it's playing football, basketball, or whether it's individual sports, whether track and field or boxing, MMA. To be out there and not be afraid to be embarrassed, I think it really speaks volumes. Cliff, I don't know if you ever been to a comedy show, and for the listeners, stick with me. Have you ever been to a comedy show? So I've seen like Kevin Hart and Dave Chappelle. I've seen Charlie Murphy. I've seen at my boy's bachelor party in the basement, they had like local stand-up comedians. And when no one laughs, it's an awkward feeling. Like, it's a bad feeling. And I don't perform. It's just how uncomfortable you feel for them. But the comedians, if they want to succeed, they keep going back up there to see what works, what doesn't work. I think having that no type of fear is what you describe as you describe it, Maxey, just going up there. I got to figure out what works, what doesn't work, and not being afraid to fall. And that's so important in pro sports, or probably any field, whether it's our field or anything, if you want to succeed and excel. And he has it. And I can't wait for like 10, 15 years, whether it's a full 2-hour documentary or just on Maxey or just the Sixers. And where there's going to be a bunch of GMs and front office executives talk about why they wanted Maxey, but someone didn't want him. So that's why they didn't why they didn't draft him.
I mean, right. There's about 20 teams that didn't want him, right?
Yeah.
There's about 20 or 24 or so teams that didn't want him. But again, like, I think Embiid and Harden really instilled that confidence in him throughout the season. Think about it. They call him the franchise, right?
Right.
Like, I think they enabled him to just be him because they realized, hey, look, this kid is actually really damn good at basketball. He's a great spot-up shooter. I think he shoots over 40% from 3 from the season for this season this year. I'm pretty sure from 2 he's around like 45%. And I think him having to take on that point guard role because of the absence of Ben Simmons earlier this season, he's embracing that. So now he can be a better ball handler, facilitator, scorer, and shooter all in one season because Ben Simmons refused to play for the Sixers. I think that really benefited Tyrese Maxey the most. And I think it's going to benefit the Sixers in the long run because now you have a guy who's fearless and who's ready to take those shots in the biggest moments. Like, the Sixers were up, they were up pretty big. They were up, I believe at the half, they were up by like around 10 or 11 or so. But then after that, he just decided, listen, I'm going to just take over the game in the third quarter. And he ran up 21 points in the third. That's unheard of.
It is a magical quarter, big quarter. So Maxey played phenomenal. Something else we was all looking at and just wanted to keep an eye on was Doc Rivers. Half of Philadelphia is wants him out of here. Other half wants to give him more time. I thought Doc Rivers coached a good game. The Sixers looked well prepared. The rotations, we didn't see, I don't recall any all bench lineups in the game. He kept Maxey and Embiid on the floor at the same time to give Harden and Tobias rest. Then when Harden came in for Maxey, Tobias came in for Embiid. Not saying Harris is playing the center position, but keeping two starters on the floor at all times as a good rotation. That was my biggest takeaway from Doc Rivers. What about yours?
Yeah, so in the playoff time, you always got to shorten your bench, right? And the two key people I noticed that didn't play was DeAndre Jordan and Furkan Korkmaz. No disrespect to them, but I think now at this point in the season, it's like we need defenders on the floor because this Raptors team can run it up on us in any moment in time. And I thought Paul Reed was the right move for Doc. Paul Reed played about 10 to 12 minutes or so.
B-ball Paul.
Yeah, B-ball Paul. Like,
Kid.
right. No, but respectfully, Paul Reed, when he got out there, he took advantage of his minutes, played hard defense. I'm pretty sure he got a bucket. And once you shorten that lineup in the playoff time, that's when it matters the most, man. Like, you can't get holes on defense. You can't give. That's the biggest Sixers problem is lapses on defense when they gave up those big time points in those big third quarter runs, fourth quarter runs, whatever it may be. Because let me ask you this: were you afraid at some point during the game in the fourth quarter when they got pretty close around 12, 13 points? Oh, damn, I don't know. This looks like one of those comebacks, right?
So on an ESPN broadcast, Dave Posh mentioned how many fourth quarter leads the Sixers had given up this season. He mentioned it. Then on top of that, like you and me were texting a few weeks ago, you asked me like how many fourth quarter leads have the Sixers blown all season. I didn't know. I felt comfortable though because we were texting during the game. I felt comfortable because of how poorly the Raptors were playing tonight. Well, and they were outmanned. They were too small, and Maxey had a gem of a game. So I felt comfortable. The Raptors are a very Jekyll and Hyde team, though. Sometimes it's real good, sometimes it's real bad. So I would say going on through the series, I don't expect it to be so easy for the Sixers. So when the Raptors are playing more competitive or like not firing all cylinders, but things are going smoother for them, I wouldn't be as comfortable with the Sixers having a 15-point lead. So on a regular night, no, I wouldn't feel comfortable. Tonight, game one, I felt comfortable.
So I felt comfortable as well too, but I'm gonna feel comfortable going forward because I know that rotation is gonna be smaller. I get the Matisse thing is gonna be a little bit different. Once they play in Toronto, it's probably gonna have to be, a different body coming off the bench. It's probably gonna have to be maybe Isaiah Joe getting some minutes or maybe Furkan getting a couple extra minutes, just to get the players' legs right during that time in Toronto. But I thought Doc did a fantastic job, like you said. He played two starters pretty much at all times. He had Paul Reed come off the bench with that smaller Raptors lineup. DeAndre Jordan, unfortunately, at this point in time in his career, is kind of a hole on defense in that interior defense, and it doesn't really provide you much of an offense. I thought Harden played the most minutes out of everybody on the Sixers, actually, and he came up pretty big. 22, 14, did his thing, played solid defense, was facilitating the right way. Doing the pick and roll the right way, being aggressive at moments where he needed to be aggressive, which is what we were begging for. I don't care if Harden takes 20 shots and only makes about 3 of those. I just need him to just be aggressive and not take 10 shots, 12 shots, 13, 14. Like Harden has to be up there with a shot attempts because if Harden gets about 22, 25, 26 a game, Sixers is going to be in good shape, throughout, for anybody in East because that's going to be tough to defend once he becomes a better scoring threat.
Ooh, if he gets more shots a game, he'll become a better scoring threat. That's how you feel, Harden?
100%.
I'm not sure because of how bad the numbers have looked over the last 2 to 3 weeks.
But the numbers out though. Harden's one of those guys where it's like early on in the game, he's not going to be hot. He tends to. I feel like Harden's more like a second half guy where he tends to heat up on the back end of games because he's like, all right, like it's go time. Like my team needs me. Like we need to get this right. Towards the end of the season, the Sixers were doing a lot of experimenting. Like, all right, what lineup? Who plays better with who? A lot of Niang Harden lineups, which I think are actually pretty good because Niang, I feel like gets an open shot every time Harden's on the floor, and not for nothing, he's been knocking him down at a pretty decent clip with Harden in the game. I feel like if he's aggressive and even if he's missing shots, he's keeping defenses honest, right? So it's like if you keep a defense honest, you're going to draw that extra defender in there, and then you can dish it out to either, hopefully Danny Green will make a shot, hopefully Niang make a shot. Tyrese is always there on the other. Listen, I feel like off of Harden's pick and roll dribbles, I swore Tyrese had the ball with like 5 feet of like open space to do whatever he wanted to every time Harden got off a pick and roll. What do you think?
I think Harden looked decent tonight. I think there's a lot. Even though he said there's not a lot of pressure on him, there's a lot of pressure on James Harden for the jokes on Twitter. Jim
100%.
Rose the other day saying his box scores look like a concert tour, whether it's 3 for 17, 4 for 12. It wasn't bad. It wasn't great, and a lot of times, and don't want to go negative because Sixers just won game 1 of the playoffs, their series against the Raptors. So want to be positive, but I'm not going to lie if I didn't think a lot of times in the past month and go talk with people about the Sixers, whether it's you, Jim, people who work with, at the barbershop. There's times where I thought, he was Old Spice. He was washed, because it didn't look good. So, but I'm hoping you are right, and I feel more like if they can get a consistent 20 from him, 20 points from him, and B does what he does, and Tobias and Maxey can consistently drop in 15, the Sixers will be in good shape. That's how I feel.
Yeah, I think the Sixers will be in good shape as long as at least 4 out of the 5 starters are in double figures, right? Like, I think Tobias and B, Maxey, Harden, they at least got to be double figures. But I also think Harden's assist numbers got to be at around 12, 13 a game, at least for them to compete each time. And then, listen, there's going to be some games where I feel like when you get deeper into the playoffs, there's going to be some games where Harden's going to have to touch like 30, 32, 33, 34 a game. Like, realistically speaking, right? Like, let's say like you do get past the Raptors pretty easy. And then I guess the next series will be theoretically against Brooklyn or Miami. You got Harden is going to have to show up a little bit more than what you would have to do here, where you have to, you can drop 22 and 14 and that'd be okay. But versus better teams, teams that have better offenses or better defenses, it's going to have to be like a little, maybe at least 2 out of those, 2 out of those games, two games out of the series. It's going to have at least be like 32 and 10 at least. Like you're going to have to rely on him a little bit more than just what he did tonight. And I thought he played a great game tonight too.
Okay. So game 1 in the book, Sixers won big. Game 2, Monday night, South Philly, Wells Fargo Center.
Yes, sir.
What do you expect? What adjustments do you think the Raptors will come into the game with? What do you think the Sixers will do to keep up with this momentum? How many games do you see the series going?
So I think the Raptors are still going to enable a strategy of trying to double, triple team and make sure, force the ball out of his hands so he's not as effective. And I think that's just going to leave more open shots to like a Danny Green who went, I believe 1 for 6 or 1 for 7 today. And it's going to leave more open shots to a Matisse Thybulle or to a Shake Milton or other guy. Like, the Toronto strategy is still going to be, hey, we got to stop Embiid no matter what we do. And they're going to crowd that lane space no matter what. What's going to really matter is who knocks down the 3-point shots. Like, straight up, like, they're not going to give you anything on the interior. They're going to make it tough. They're going to foul you. They're going to go crazy at you. And they're going to shoot the lights out no matter what. Like, they're going to go for, all right, guess what? We're a perimeter team. We can't really bring it inside while Embiid is down there. So we're going to shoot as many threes as we possibly can. And that's going to be our strategy, is to play a numbers game pretty much. If I were Nick Nurse and if I was enabling strategy, I would say, look, I have to stop Embiid. Rule number 1, stop Embiid. But we got to knock down and chase our shooters no matter what. We got to chase our shooters off the line, try to force twos, try to force buckets on the inside, because that's where our strongest point of defense is. We can't just rely on, okay, we're going to triple team Embiid, but he's going to pass out of it each and every time.
So I think we'll see more of the same. I think the thing that's being overlooked, whether for a lot of people that pick the Raptors to win the series or probably even people that even know they probably pick the Sixers to win the series. One team has good half-court offense. The other team does not.
They play a lot of transition offense.
Yeah, the Raptors are a smaller team.
That doesn't work well in the playoffs.
It doesn't work well in the playoffs. The defense is tighter. I think Siakam a lot of times is picking up Embiid. And Siakam is a very good player, but he's too small. I was impressed to see Maxey pick up Fred VanVleet at times, just with the defensive intensity. It was. I'm sorry. I said Siakam picking up Embiid. It was Embiid picking up Siakam because last time the Sixers played the Raptors, Siakam torched Tobias Harris and whoever else was defending him. I think we'll see more of what we saw tonight. I don't think it'll be as lopsided moving forward, but the Sixers could possibly wrap this up in 5-6 games.
I think every second half Embiid should cover Siakam. In the first half, you should kind of play it like a normal style defense. You should probably play Embiid on the big, have the guys kind of match up just, body position wise, basically, in a one-on-one setting. But I think if you shut down Siakam in second half of a game, the Raptors can't really do much after that because then it's like, all right, who are we relying on to score? Gary Trent? Are we going to rely on VanVleet more? Like,
Fred.
I mean, OG, I don't know, he's not even like a scorer. So it's like,
just feed him the ball. Hope he does something.
Right. Exactly. Like, but it's like wishful thinking, right, Ben? Like, my thing with Embiid covering Siakam, I love it because he's versatile enough to where Siakam loves to break people down on the dribble and get to the net, right? Embiid is so agile to where, like, that's not going to work on a guy like that because you can't body him like Siakam does to guys. You can't really get past him, and you can't get a good shot off of him. So it's going to be tough for Siakam to do that in second halves of games. And I think that's why Embiid should roll on that each time because you don't want to get him in foul trouble early with Siakam, drawing contact or anything crazy like that. You want to just play straight up because you can survive that way, and Embiid can just focus on the offensive end more and play to help weak side rotational defense. You know what I mean? So when Embiid gets in that position, then all right, everybody just has to play their part. Tobias has to guard whoever he has to guard. Maxey has to guard who he has to guard. The pick and roll isn't that strong with the Raptors because, like you said, they like to do a lot of transitional basketball. So then you're just staying home, right? You're not wasting too much energy on defense. You're just staying home with your guys and playing true specific defense on man-to-man. And then you save your energy for offense. You get on offensive end. You move the ball. You spread the ball. You get them tired. And then you pass it to the open shooter. Great strategy.
Right. So that's looking forward to game 2. Game 1, big win by the Sixers. Big game. It's the Tyrese Maxey game. Is that what we're going to call it moving forward? The Tyrese Maxey game?
Maxey game, the Mad Max game.
The Mad Max game. Where were you when Tyrese Maxey went off for the Mad Max game? But thank you for listening to the Sixers Talk podcast. That's Cliff Augustin. Follow him on Twitter, @BullCliff. Is that the same thing for your IG?
Yes, same thing. DABOULCLIFF, the Bull Cliff. It's a Philly thing.
Let y'all know. Anyone that's on the road, anyone that grew up in Philly, they knew it was a Philly thing. You have to explain it. Everybody else is like, I don't understand.
Exactly.
Cliff Augustin from SiriusXM. Follow him, @BullCliff, Twitter, IG. I'm Ben Berry, NBC Sports Philadelphia. As you know, I'm on this pod. Daniel Palmels will be back with me Monday night. Follow me on Twitter. I am Ben Berry, same as Instagram. We'll be back with a new Sixers Talk podcast Monday night after game 2. This was Sixers Talk podcast presented to you by Wilmington University. Will, you works.